because the reason why we do hot lunch is so that exactly what is happening right now that I just stopped happens. That you come, you have a hot lunch, you talk to people, and maybe you talk about things you don't normally talk about in your office life or your work life. And so hopefully all of you are having great conversations, and you'll be able to pick them up after our speaker today finishes, or on the way back to your office if you came with people from your office. But I want to welcome you formally to Hot Lunch. I'm Henry Yu, the principal of St. John's College, and it's been my privilege to be one of the people involved in the Hot Lunch Committee that has organized this for over 10 years. St. John's College is on, as the rest of UBC campus, on the traditional ancestral unceded territory of Musqueam. And that acknowledgement, I think, is actually particularly important because of the importance of the relationship with Musqueam. That is one of the things that our speaker today and his portfolio handles on behalf of the university. So we're really, really excited to have both in person here today, as well as those joining virtually on Zoom. So hopefully you're having a hot meal as well if you're joining from Zoom. But the Oktoberfest theme, I asked Michael if he has any Bavarian or German ancestry just to justify the Oktoberfest food, but he doesn't. So we imposed Oktoberfest on him rather than asking him, as with most speakers, sort of they have a preference. Yeah, I was gonna say, there's not the big lager, the Bavarian lager that goes, but again, afterwards, you're all free to go to Kerner's or to the gallery and have your Bavarian beer. But again, it's fall. The colors are beautiful, except for some reason our trees are still in summer mode, a lot of them. But we welcome you again here because this is what, for over a decade, Hot Lunch has meant. I'm reminded that actually Michael joined UBC the same year that we began Hot Lunch, and in fact, he was one of our first speakers. It's actually one of the reasons why we thought, hey, we haven't had Michael for a while, is because it's been a decade since Michael first came and introduced himself as the first Associate Vice President of Campus and Community Planning. I think it was called Director of Campus and Community Planning originally, or has it always been AVP? Yeah, I was going to say we make up titles here at UBC all the time. So he came, in fact, I mentioned the first because we actually did not have this campus and community planning portfolio really as a organized. It changed. It changed into this present configuration. So that's some of the things that I recall from Michael's first appearance here over a decade ago. So he joined in 2014. He's the official line is he leads a team responsible for a broad set of municipal functions. We are like a little city, including campus planning and design, development services, sustainability and engineering, community development, and public and stakeholder engagement. He's got a long urban planning professional career CV or a resume, if you want to check that out, including around the world, North America, Middle East, Asia, city of Vancouver as well. So we want to sort of welcome him also as a moment when I had the privilege of serving on the Campus Vision 2050 advisory, the Community Advisory Committee, for over 2 years, as the Campus Vision was really created out of the consultation with all the different UBC stakeholders, from students to faculty and staff to residents, who live in the University Neighborhood Association and beyond. So it's really an exciting moment in some sense. We're going to depart a little bit because there will be a couple slides, just to give you the heads up. If you can't see it because you're in the back, the peanut gallery in the back, this will, with permission from Michael and his portfolio, share those slides with everyone so that you can see them if you have a hard time seeing them during lunch. Questions, feel free, please, to write while he's talking. If something comes up, write the question down, and then put up your hand, and either Carol or I or one of our SJC staff will come by and grab the question. I know some of you pre-submitted questions, and so I think Michael is going to try to take care of some of those pre-submitted questions during his remarks. But if something comes up you want to ask, please do write it down, and we'll gather it because normally we kind of take a break between the speaker and the questions. We're just going to keep rolling. So if you need to get back to work, you know, your lunch hour's over, do again, feel free to go when you have to go. Nobody's going to judge you, and we won't think of it as a judgment on Michael either, that you're voting with your feet. He won't, I hope, either. But we'll do that, and then we're going to do a little pause and break around 12:30-ish again, so that you can, you know, get up and not worry about making noises with your chairs and stuff like that. In the new SJC, the number one priority said is the chairs don't make noise when you move. Yeah, so we don't care about anything else. It's just like I said, yeah, I don't care how it's designed. Just make sure that the chairs don't squeak. Okay, please do you know, join in giving a warm welcome to Michael White.
Good evening, everybody. You can all hear me in the back, I presume. I'm just going to say I had a little bit of an issue with middle age, and I snapped my Achilles. Many of you probably know and keep hearing about it.
Middle age, really? Okay.
I'm middle age too, then. You look healthy though. Yeah, I had a little incident early part of the summer and still recovering. So I think it's kind enough to let me sit and chat with you folks today. And it has been a number of years since I've been here, and I really enjoy this stuff, and my team fully knows that. And I think as planners, there's all kinds of like hard infrastructure issues we deal with, but the spirit of place, the sense of place, is so important to the lived experience in any community, and we think about that a lot. And so we, as a team, take every opportunity we can to promote and connect. And I think that very much in line with the mission of St. John's and the hot lunch. So I'm really happy to be back today and talk a little bit. I'll share a little bit about myself, let you know who I am, what we do, and then we'll talk about, as Henry mentioned, a lot of engagement through Campus Vision 2050, a lot of engagement. And so just reflect on, after you folks invested so much time, where we're at today in terms of implementation with Campus Vision. So as Henry mentioned, we are on the traditional and unceded traditional territory of Musqueam. That's going to be a theme that I want to touch on through today's discussion and talk about the relationship with Musqueam through our campus planning work here. So a little bit about myself, and if you folks were here back in the year that was Henry, maybe reusing some slides, so I'm not lazy. But I think this one starts to reveal my interest in cities and city planning. I was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8, and decided to build a toothpick city. And my parents took a photo of it. There's actually a lot of bad planning in this image, so it won't dwell on it. But I think it goes to show that early on I had a real curiosity about cities, about people, and the environments that they live and work in. And this is how that's kind of how it all started. And Henry also mentioned that some of the shapers in my life. I grew up in the Okanagan from a family of 4. And I was the youngest by a long shot. So my youngest sibling is 8 years older than me. And so I was the baby. And I think my team that's here today can appreciate that. They're also rolling their eyes. So with that, always a great sense of curiosity and need for adventure. So I went to school, undergrad at UBC, and then graduate work at the University of Toronto. But I think a lot of my views on planning in cities and communities has really been shaped by experience as much as it was by education. And one of the highlights that I've had in my life was being able to work overseas in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi for a number of years, and it was a real eye opener in so many ways. You couldn't pick a more different environment in almost every respect. And I'll just briefly say that from those kinds of experiences, you can kind of compare what is the difference between living and working in a place like Vancouver, UBC. And one of the things that we did over in Abu Dhabi is we did community engagement for the first time in the Emirate. And I'm really proud of the work we did to go out and ask people what they thought. And it was not easy to get permission, if you will, to do that. We did it. And the biggest surprise for me was how similar people's needs and interests are. In a completely different environment, completely different culture, and people were talking about the exact same things that all you folks were talking about when we went through Campus Vision. So to me, maybe that shouldn't be surprising, but it was a real moment of learning for me, and it's helped kind of shape, I think, how we undertake community engagement here. I have a wife and 2 kids. This is a little older photo. The kids are actually 14 and 16 now. This is my counterbalance in life, and as you go through the major issues like SNAP activities, you really appreciate the support you have around you. And so my family is the other half that keeps me balanced, and it could be a bit of a stressful job being in campus planning, and so they're my rock. And interests that I have, there's lots of different interests. I'm not going to play basketball anymore, but renovating a 112-year-old house is still ongoing. I actually started a reno this summer, just before I snapped my case, so it's been a bit of a mess. My daughter's sharing the bathroom right now with my wife, and it's not working out very well. And traveling with the family has been a big interest in exploring cities and history and archaeology. Had interest. I do love sport, and this is a photo. I must have been, I don't know, 13. Here you can try to find me. I still love hockey. I play it several times a week. I used to before I had this accident, and I hope to do it again soon. But I love staying active. It's another way to counterbalance all the kind of stresses in life. And what personality? What do I find funny or enjoyable? These are 2 movies or series that Carol agrees. So The Big Lebowski is one of my favorite movies, and it's that wacky, crazy sense of humor and then such nonsensical humor that really I get a kick out of. And then, of course, watching Stranger Things with my kids the last few years, it really took me back to the 1980s, which I'm a product of, and all the fun we had growing up in the 1980s. So that's just a little snapshot of who I am, and when we come to questions, happy to answer any questions you might have. But I did want to talk today a bit about where we're at with Campus Vision, because so much time was invested from all of you folks, from many, and we had 13,000 touch points of contact through that process. So the most extensive engagement that the university has ever undertaken, and the team, many of the members are here today. It was a monumental effort. And I want to touch on some of the things that I know were important to you, and let's just talk about how it's going. This is very small font, distributed after. I'm just going to speak to a few highlights though. First and foremost is always supporting the academic mission. And while there is a capital planning process and facilities planning that happens in parallel, all subject to government funding and other funding, we as planners need to create the container, as we call it, for academic growth and make sure that in terms of urban design, sustainability, and engagement, that these projects are successful. And so in recent years, there's been a number. The Gateway building is about to open. North of that, Gateway North is just about to break ground. So there are academic projects, the Farm Center, a number of academic projects that our team gets involved in to make sure that it's hitting the values that were expressed through Campus Vision. Again, it's dependent on priorities and funding, but it's the place we always start. This is a university as well as a quasi-municipality, and we need to support the academic mission first and foremost. One of the biggest themes through Campus Vision that you'll appreciate was around housing and housing affordability, and we really pushed aggressively to see some change through Campus Vision. For student housing, we're sitting right now on the site of a major project that will break ground soon. Very proud that 1,500 or so units student housing on site. And that was Andrew, a big, unique partnership with government to make that happen. We're going to need more of those partnerships. We've got more land capacity in Campus Vision identified for housing growth. We had a target of 17,300 student beds on campus, 14,000 now. But there's capacity for more. And we've identified sites across campus, but it's going to take some pretty unique partnerships with government, funding and financing to make that happen. So that's a big priority, working with opportunities outside too. We see the rental market changing in the region, and so coordinating and partnering, even explorations with Musqueam, because of the Musqueam lands just east of the university, but ways we might be able to partner to facilitate student housing opportunities. And this is in addition to the neighborhood growth on campus, so all the residential neighborhoods that flank the academic core. And we've increased density, which was not an easy topic to engage on during campus vision. And so the first step in implementing the new density was an amendment to the Westbrook Place neighborhood plan recently by the Board of Governors to allow more housing in Westbrook Place and taller buildings. And these are some of the really sticky things that that we need to discuss and struggle with when we change the plans for a community like UBC, where about 80,000 people during the day now, 30,000 people here at night. That's going to grow substantially in the decades to come. And so these are really tough discussions. And I think the nice balance was struck with the input we received and where the Board of Governors landed for housing growth on campus. And there's a whole other host of affordability programs that the university has for faculty and for discounted rental faculty staff housing to increase the amount of rental housing in the neighborhoods. So it was pretty aggressive in terms of change for housing. Is it enough? I think most people think that it's probably not enough, and that's a theme across the region. I see rents are coming down slowly, but this is going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to need to keep focusing on because it's not going to be solved easily or quickly. Ecology and open space, big theme through the process. We have new targets introduced for the first time, for example, for things like tree canopy targets on campus. We need to take it to the next level as we grow as a community to make sure that we have the open space and are very sensitive to the ecology on campus. I'll just, while I'm speaking to that, also touch on climate action and the aggressive approach the university is taking to climate action was really embedded through campus vision. And really, we heard that loud and clear in our engagement with the community. And this year, the academic part of campus, we're seeing a little over 40% reduction in GHGs from 2007 levels, which is quite amazing given that we've grown through that entire period and still able to reduce. Is it enough? No, again, this is where we got to keep focused and try to really push reductions in the team of people that are doing this across the university, working with the community to try to make that happen, including in the residential neighborhoods. I want to touch just briefly on a big theme that came up in the context of growth around amenities and services. And a lot of people rightly said, well, it's fine to add housing, but what are you going to do about the emergency services we need, or the health services we need, or the grocery store we need, additional grocery store we need on campus? These are all being, and a lot of times, not under the jurisdiction of the university. So there's a lot of work that's happening to coordinate with different providers, and some examples I can touch on today. They're not announced, but we're working on it and should be soon. One is a new grocery store in the Gateway North building, and that should be announced imminently. And it's going to be a little more toward the discount end for groceries because some other choices on the edges of campus, and we heard this is really important and proud to say that we can deliver on that. And that's a response to the feedback that we've heard. Another example is around urgent primary care, working with Vancouver Coastal, expanding urgent primary care services on campus, which looks like it's also an imminent announcement. These are questions that came up over and over again, and I think we would be remiss if they weren't addressed as we grow a residential property population. And I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have on amenities and services after. Also working very closely with, I'll touch on Musqueam for a minute here, because when we talk about ecology and open space, it's been an evolving relationship with Musqueam over my 12 years. And it wasn't, frankly, in a very good spot. There's still a lot of challenges. We have been working very closely, struggling and having successes in changing that relationship. And I think my counterpart at Musqueam, Leona, would agree, you're starting to see that on campus now, which is, I think, a big compliment of the work many of us in the room are doing with Musqueam. So whether it's the meadows, Indigenous planting on campus, the iconography, the work around art across campus, and the different ways we're engaging. So we meet frequently and talk about projects. What are the impacts on Musqueam? How do they get addressed? What are the interests of Musqueam, and how can they be addressed? The Gateway building on the corner of Westbrook and U Boulevard, the design actually changed, siting changed, that landscape around the building changed because of that engagement. Are we there yet? No. There's still a lot of work to do in that evolving relationship and the needs and interests of Musqueam. But I think it's on a different trajectory. And this was also a big theme that we had heard through campus vision. Well, nobody's going to ask me about SkyTrain today, I'm pretty sure. So this is a struggle. You think about the commutes. I was talking to Jenny about the hour and a half long commute from Surrey in the morning. This is ridiculous. And everybody we talk to about connectivity in the region agrees. So it can be the mayor of Vancouver, it can be the provincial government, it can be the federal government. You name it, everyone agrees. Yeah, why is the SkyTrain being built out to UBC? So why can't we get this done when we know that the ridership is going to be probably the best business case ever of a transportation project in Canada? And with all that support in the region, because it's not just about students coming out or faculty staff, it's about connecting innovation, ideas, employment, housing across the region. What do we need to do? So we have a dedicated team that works with the other levels of government, the partners, Musqueam and MST and other partners, TransLink, and we're supporting the province as they do their official business case right now, which is basically a document that'll say, this is what it's going to cost, this is what the scope's going to include. Now everyone go write some checks and build this. Well, we're in the middle of that right now. And it's slow going because these are big, expensive projects, and a lot of that, majority, usually about 80% of that funding comes from senior government. And you all know what's happening with senior government funding. Right? So it is a struggle. Yet at the same time, I think it holds immense opportunity because of the benefits of the line. So it's doing all those things that I mentioned. It's about economic activity. It's about transportation. It's about connecting housing. It's also reconciliation and the interests of the nations through the corridor and their economic development and housing needs. So I think when you look at a winner of a project, this is it. And now it becomes less about the science and technical work and about advocacy. And every rapid transit project that's been built in the region, the decision to build those projects was made typically on a phone call or meeting between a premier and a prime minister. That's true. And so what do you do to advocate? And students have been great with the recent petition and activities. You got to talk to people and you got to get out there and you got to push. And you need validators to say how important this is. So as much as this is a responsibility of a team out here at UBC, it's also, I think, on all of us. And for you folks, just keep talking about it and asking questions and advocating, especially for people that have influence over government to do that, because that's how it's now going to get done. So if things go well, the business case concludes within a year and commitments are made, and it takes several years to build a project like this, but by 2033, 2034, will we all be here? I don't know, but it can be done. And so that's the quick SkyTrain update. In addition to that, there's a lot of transportation ideas that we heard through campus visions are being implemented for walking, cycling, and accessibility across campus. And I know I'm coming to time here, but I'm on the accessibility committee for the university, and I figure I'm a pretty switched on guy. I understand, needs and interests, and I really didn't fully get it until I had this injury, and it's been a real eye opener. And it happens in the most subtle ways in a meeting room, trying to get from one building to another. That so the benefits of going through an experience like this actually are huge. And my sympathy and attention to these issues now is much. It's got a completely different perspective. Now we shouldn't all go through that, but it is something that I've learned. That's something that was a big theme through Campus Vision and work that we do in the public spaces on campus for accessibility, and then John Metros's team and facilities that they do with inside of the buildings. So quite a bit of work that we had touched on. Musqueam present, so I won't go through that because I want to leave enough time for questions, but I did hit some of the highlights in that growing and evolving relationship working with Musqueam. Talked about climate action and the progress we're making, and it is also the fun thing I'll say in climate action is there's the things we can do as an institution, we call it scope 1 and 2 emissions, but there's the work that the community needs to do around behavior, and that's all of us when we're here every day and what we can do to help. And that's where we need to see the more dramatic reductions now. And so that's a bit of a kind of a call to action for all of us to try to make change as individuals and not just the institution and the investments that the institution is making. So I bounced around a little bit. I try to keep it informal just to let you in a little bit in terms of who I am and the work that we do in C and CP. And I'd be happy to answer. I did answer a few of the questions that I know that were pre-submitted, but happy to answer additional questions.
So anyone else have questions? Put up your hand and we'll pick them up from you.
Oh, yeah, this is a really good one. The housing debate that we had through Campus Vision, as tough as it was, it's fundamentally changed. The question is, how has it changed in your 12 years planning for housing? And I worked in the city of Vancouver in a previous life, and I would go out to, I remember meetings in Dunbar, and we were talking about having 4-story building being constructed on Dunbar Street, and I was screamed at. And this was a very common response to densification and change 12 years ago, very across North America. It's fundamentally shifted, and there's more balanced discussion. There's still those voices, but it's much more balanced. The YIMBY, yes in my backyard versus NIMBY, it's really appeared, and it's mostly the younger generation that's come out and said, I don't have anywhere to live. My rent's crazy. I'll never be able to buy a place. Too bad if the building's going to be 2 stories higher or 12 stories higher. And that was a real shift through Campus Vision. And the students were the ones that came out through the public hearing and the engagement to say, yeah, I get that you want to preserve the way things are, but what about the next generation? And that changed the conversation. I think it's happening across North America pretty significantly right now. The difference between working here and in the Middle East and Abu Dhabi and the kind of the benefits and challenges is it's a fun one because it is so different. And in Abu Dhabi, there is an authoritarian regime, call it what it is. And at this point in their history, they have a pretty, say, enlightened leader he wanted to change the attitude towards sustainability, even a lot of social issues. He said, can you guys help make that change? And I think we did. And because of the way the governance is set up there and the way that funding's arranged, things can happen immediately. So that was the benefit, is that we want more sustainable buildings in our cities and more sustainable neighborhoods. Next thing you know, the funding was there to hire people to design it. Funding was there to hire people to build it. This would be like SkyTrain, 30 years in the making in the West. So the benefit of that is huge. The flip side, I think it's pretty obvious, not a democracy, so transparency and engagement, ability to have recourse, it's not the same. And so that's a significant trade-off. Human rights issues that those countries are struggling with. Did you say, yeah, is one better than the other given what I've just said about the pros and cons? It's different. I think there's lessons. It's almost like, what are the lessons you can learn from each? So what are the lessons around transparency and engagement, democracy that benefit over there and over here? Could we get a SkyTrain built in less than 30 years? So I think there are some lessons from each. I'll take maybe one more question. Are you okay?
Yeah, as many as you want to take, and
okay.
Then again, maybe we'll take a 1 or so minute, 2 minutes pause, and then when you go, it's around 12:30, so where that's probably.
I won't be offended.
Yeah. Anyone else have questions? So we're not going to count how many of you are left here because we're just joking that no one left when Adam spoke. So
You were in the walls again.
But yeah, we all work for Adam. So thank you for again for those who've put in questions. Again, if you feel free to keep writing out questions, but we're gonna see again. Actually, we know about that because someone did leave through that. So I'm going to pass this back to Michael, and he'll answer a few more, and probably it looks like 3 or 4 questions. So yeah, again, Michael, feel free to answer as many before you have to leave as well.
Sure. So I'll just do about five more minutes, and let folks get outside. Actually, it's nice outside. Until SkyTrain is built, what can be done around a better bus? It's a good question. So we're working with Translate on an updated area transportation plan for this part of the peninsula, and they are identifying some improvements in bus routing and service levels. They are also dependent on funding and have some struggles. So it is on the books to try to improve the bus service in the meantime. The Broadway corridor is at capacity for rapid bus. You can't actually move any more buses through that corridor, so that's not going to be part of the solution. But there are other routes that can be improved. And when the SkyTrain does open in Arbutus in 2027, that'll also be another question of what that looks like for the transfer, which I think is going to be a mess, frankly. And how do you get to all the folks from Arbutus to UBC in a confined space? It's like moving commercial and Broadway to Arbutus and Broadway, which is a pretty finite area, and trying to move all those people. Another question was around safety and what do we do to keep the community safe as it grows, and do we have those levels of service? I know this is an active question right now for police, fire, and ambulance on campus, and for our part, we're working with the provincial government to redevelop the public safety site, which is on Westbrook, to be a new home for those 3 services. And that part of the issue is capacity. They have space to grow, so we're actually looking at a redevelopment scheme that will have more space for those 3, a part of it. And then the service levels, you do need the investment from those partners, and they are looking at, for example, RCMP to make sure that they have the number of officers that are needed for a growing community of this size. So we work closely with them in providing always the updated growth numbers for the university. But that public safety redevelopment, I think, will be a pretty big one. What can we do around climate action? What else can we do in the community? And behavior change is a big part of that. How do you motivate and make people aware? There's a team that's getting out there right now and sharing information, trying to generate interest around this. It's not easy. I think there's some great examples, Andrew, in your shop around behavior change in student residences with recycling, for example, and behavior in residences here at St. John's. There's some really good examples of how when we partner, it's quite powerful to have to invoke a behavior change. It does require willing participants. So there's a whole field of research around this, how to invoke behavior change. We're doing what we can. I think it's also going to be a bit of a tricky few years ahead of us because the attitude towards climate has shifted, as you've seen and read yesterday. Thanks to Bill Gates, but there are some attitudes that are changing around climate, which also makes it a bit tricky. The university still, and Benoit has been really clear about maintaining our commitments to climate sustainability in the new strategic plan, and so we're marching ahead and trying to generate interest and share information around ways that folks can make a difference. So I think I'll stop there. And Maddie's reminded me that there is information online. We're doing some further implementation work on updating a bunch of plans that cascade from Campus Vision. One called the Campus Plan for this academic part of campus, the transportation plan, childcare plan. There's all these cascading pieces of work that we're working on now. And there's an opportunity to look at some of those changes online. And there's a feedback form that will allow let's see, open until November 21st on our website. So we'll share that. We can share the information today to the folks that attended, and then there'll be the information how to access what I just mentioned on our website. So with that, I'll conclude. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for coming in his injured states. Yes. I want to thank Clarence and his staff again for a wonderful hot lunch. So please give a hand to the kitchen staff. Next month is Samantha Reed, AVP of students, and someone who's again been involved heavily in a lot of the things that we're talking about today about just what is student life both on campus and off campus like. And so please do hit the button at that time. We're still working on a system where it's not quite, like door crashers and trying to get the, the cheap washer dryer at midnight, on. So yeah, getting away from the Black Monday kind of feel of being able to get in here. But we also look forward to actually, again, I'm glad Andrew's here, with working during our construction period to have a larger room to actually have hot lunch over at University Center. So again, next year, literally next year, because this building we're blowing up in May. So again, thank you for being one of the last hot lunches here. So don't get too used to the building because it won't be here anymore. Yeah. For the blowing up. So I keep on thinking there's this old I'm gonna date me, an SCTV routine where it's like you blow it up real good. Yeah, we're gonna blow it up real good. Yeah, I'm gonna be here, so we can have a blowing up party. We're gonna also if Andrew's okay with us sticking a live stream on one of the buildings like on Ponderosa, you can if you're at 3 a.m. you want to watch what's going on with the hole in the ground here as it grows. Yeah, so we're gonna have yeah, exactly. It's gonna be exciting. No, it'll put you to sleep probably. Yeah. And yeah, so we're thinking alumni will be coming back for a homecoming. With all the campus folks who've had hot lunch here. Yeah, we're gonna figure something out. Maybe we'll have a mega hot lunch or something. But I don't know. Andrew and I will talk with food services with Paul and his crew and Chef David Spate. So we're excited. Yeah, we want to have a moment rather than just sort of like sneaking off and suddenly the building's gone. So thanks so much again. You are key stakeholders at SJC as hot lunch diners and sharing meals. So again, and I want to thank again the hot lunch committee is the last word. Many are here. Shirley Nakata, ombudsperson for the university, Stacy Barber, our operations manager, Andrew Parr, AVP for student housing and community services. Gerard Dumaresque is here from international portfolio. I'm missing any? Oh, Jenny's right. Yeah, I just see Jenny's back of the head. Jenny Lou from our staff as well, our academic programs manager. So thanks to them and thanks to Adam. Nobody ever leaves Adam's talk, as I said. Adam, yeah, I was just so Adam again is supporting half of the expense here. So he's bought half of your lunch. So you can determine whether it was the sausages or the. So thanks to Adam for buying half your lunch. So in any case, we'll see you next month. Those of you who can get in on the door. Thank you. Thank you. No, nice job. That's great. I think it was fantastic. Yeah.